Our first presentation of the conference is from a couple of people at Libris. So we'll first hear from Alan Oliver, who's the Director of Community Engagement at Clarivate, and Alan will introduce a couple of colleagues as well. So if you're ready, Alan, go for it.
Hi, Ella. Thank you. And hi, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning, our time certainly. We are happy to participate in the conference today, looking forward to joining you for some of the sessions and also to listening to some of the recordings. But first of all, we are going to hear from Katie Birch. Katie is a Senior Director within Product Management and is going to talk about Rapido, our resource sharing solution. So Katie, I will hand over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks, Alan. Just make sure everyone, you can hear me, Alan, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, thank you. And I will just share the presentation. Oh, Zoom, where are you? There we go. Okay, Alan, just to check, you can see the presentation?
Yes, we can, Katie. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's just dive in. So I'm just going to spend some time talking about Rapido. And first of all, I'm going to talk about specifically around how we're doing with Rapido in Australia and New Zealand, how Rapido is used, what's it for, and a few Rapido roadmap highlights. So I'm sure we have a mix of you out there who use Rapido and some of you don't. So I'm trying to get the balance right between those who are in the know and those who may be wanting to be in the know. So let's get started. So in Australia and New Zealand, Rapido was launched, 2022. So it's around 2 years old officially, and the development partnership program started some time before that. And we did have some development partners in Australia, and I'm pleased to say that we now have 15 live customers in Australia running Rapido, and you can see them all on here. CSIRO were the first to go live, I think, back in 2021. And this is a kind of a timeline of who went live when, from left to right, top to bottom across the slides. And so I'm pleased to say that you'll be hearing more from the team at Charles Sturt University this afternoon about their experiences with Rapido. So very much look forward to hearing from them. I also have some news regarding a couple of new Australian, oh no, I don't. First of all, I'm going to talk about New Zealand. So the University of Auckland are our first Rapido in New Zealand. They went live in November 2023. They were super fast going live. I think we would probably give them a prize if we had one for how fast they were. And of course, in New Zealand, it's very important that they can work with the Tupuna libraries and be a part of the Tupuna network. And so with Auckland, they manage, as you can see on this slide, most of their requests within Rapido, but around 18% of those requests are going out to the Tupuna system to WorldShare ILL, around 18%. And those requests are the borrows and lends, they are managed in WorldShare ILL, but from a borrowing perspective, there's no need to rekey from one system to the other. That happens automatically. So thank you, Auckland, for taking the plunge and being the first Rapido in New Zealand. We do have a couple of new implementations that I'm really delighted to talk about. So first of all, we have the University of Tasmania, who will be implementing Rapido alongside Alma and Primo. And we also have the National Library of Australia, who have selected Rapido for their own ILL services within the library. And what that, of course, means is that we will be integrating Rapido with Folio. I'm sure many of you are aware that the National Library of Australia uses Folio as their ILS. And so that project has just got started with the team at the NLA. And they will be our second library using Folio. Our first library will be going live just later this month. They're in America. And so we're delighted that the NLA have selected us for their own ILL system. So obviously much more to come on that as we move forward with the NLA on that implementation. But welcome to the NLA, to the Rapido community. And so a little bit about Rapido for those of you in the audience who may not be aware, who may not know very much about it. So Rapido is a resource sharing system, and it's really designed around a couple of guiding principles. And one of those is the end user experience. And when I speak to libraries that use Rapido, one of the things that I always hear is how much the users like it, how different it is from resource sharing workflows for the end users in the past, how they love that it's embedded within Primo. And the way that we think about it internally, really, about Ex Libris is we want to make it as easy to order a title, find an item, as it is to order a pizza and choose your toppings. So we think about it from that perspective. If we were using any of the apps for ordering food, that really ordering an item that the library doesn't have should be as straightforward as that. So what do we mean by that? So we really like to think about Rapido as a single interface for discovery and borrowing. Many of you may be familiar with workflows in the past where the resource sharing of the interlibrary loan system has sat outside of your ILS. And so that's really meant that the user has had to understand how to navigate from the discovery layer into the resource sharing system to place a request, fill out a form, to authenticate, and so on and so forth. We're trying to remove that friction and that complexity by just having everything in one place. And we're also trying really hard to do that for staff as well, so that the requests are managed as much as possible from within the Rapido interface, which, because it's based on Alma, is there's a lot of familiarity there for Alma libraries. But also, just even if we can't integrate completely, that there's some way of integrating. And as I mentioned with Auckland, the ability to send out a request from Rapido into the WorldShare ILL application means that library staff don't have to rekey. And obviously that saves significant amounts of time. So for the end user, we want to make sure that they can do everything from within Primo. And for libraries that don't use Alma, we try and integrate it as much as we can with the discovery layer in use at that library. But within Primo VE, very tightly integrated within the discovery experience, all from that same interface. Everything's available 24/7. And one of the beautiful things about Rapido is the auto mediation. And that works so well when it's working within the network, so requesting from Rapid ILL or requesting from Rapido pods, that staff never need to touch a request, that it can just get filled automatically without staff intervention. And that's fantastic for users on a weekend. They can place a request on a Friday evening, and with Rapid ILL, it can be filled overnight, for example, which is really fantastic and game-changing for library users. And of course, because it's Primo, it's embedded within the Primo experience, it's all on the same user account, then they can see their options for how the request is progressing from within their patron card as well. I'm just going to flip back to this screenshot, because one of the things we've tried to do in Rapido is really simplify that workflow. So here you see what we call our tiles, and this gives the user two options. It gives them an option for a physical copy or a chapter. And from a physical copy, it gives them an idea of when the item might be delivered and how long they would have it for. And we can tell that because we know behind the scenes, Rapido knows behind the scenes who has the item, if it's a returnable item, who holds the item, and what the rules are around the loanability of that item. And that's how we can show the delivered in 5 days, keep for 120 days, and manage the user's expectations so that they get the request in a timely way. Of course, if 5 days is too long, then they can also request a chapter, and that chapter would be delivered generally within 24 hours. So really game-changing end user experience. And I've heard library staff, when I speak to them and ask them why they chose Rapido, very often they refer to the end user experience as transformational, as just refreshing, and just removing that friction that's been there in the past for their users. So on the staff side, as I said, one of our goals is to have everything managed in one place. So any kind of request, wherever that request is going for fulfillment, for it to be managed from within the Rapido interface. And of course, as I said, because it's based on the Higher Education Cloud Platform, the interface is very familiar for staff as well who use Alma. One of the goals also is to reduce that staff time. And I also mentioned that with regard to the user experience, that really trying to remove that friction from a request. So there really is as little need for library staff to jump in and handle requests, and reduce that staff time that's spent on every single request, and really allowing staff to focus on those difficult to find things, or materials that perhaps haven't arrived for whatever reason and need a little bit of zhuzhing along. And so really trying to look at staff workflows and make it as smooth as possible. And finally, from the staff side, really looking to fill requests within 24 hours. Now, they might not be delivered within 24 hours, but looking to make sure that a request is routed to a possible supplier or lender, and that item is on its way. We've done a lot of work on the lending workflow side of things as well, to make sure that requests are easy to manage on the lending side from within Rapido as well. So that, again, not just on the borrowing side, we're focusing on both sides of the coin to try and make workflows as smooth as possible. So I'm just going to skip over this one, move to the next slide. So within Australia, there are a number of different fulfillment methods in use, and I'm just going to spend a minute talking about those. A quick swig of my tea there. So we try and integrate with as many different systems and services as we can, and that is of course an ongoing program. We're constantly listening to our users and hearing different suppliers, and then trying to work with those suppliers to add them into Rapido in whichever way those suppliers can integrate with our system. So having looked at the data across how libraries are using Rapido in Australia, these are the primary methods of how Rapido has been used. So we have Rapid ILL, which is, as many of you will know, a fantastic service for non-returnable materials for articles and book chapters. Was acquired by Ex Libris in 2019, just 5 years ago, actually, last week. And that service is a fantastic community where libraries agree to borrow and lend materials, not charge each other, so a reciprocal service. It's a 24-hour turnaround. So as a lender, you commit to filling requests within 24 hours. We have some really strong load balancing to make sure that libraries are able to manage borrows and lends within 24 hours. And so that's really incredible service. The turnaround time is often less than 10 hours, and that's our average on a monthly basis. We also have Rapido pods, we call them, and that's a way of managing returnable materials. So in Australia, there are a number of pods And that's where those, as I said on a previous slide, where you have 5 days and 120 days, we know that because of the pod membership. So the libraries that join pods have committed to fill a request and deliver it within 5 days and loan it for 120 days. So those sorts of rules of engagement or terms of use are used within the software itself to manage requests. And then, of course, we do have integration with Libraries Australia, document delivery service. Libraries that use OLMA resource sharing also have access to that integration. That's using the somewhat old now ISO protocol. And then you can also email libraries to request materials. We have that integration with OCLC's WorldShare ILL that I talked about, that Auckland are using, and a number of other libraries use to integrate with that service, and Reprints Desk. Now, there are very many other options, but when I looked at the data from within how Australia are using Rapido, these were the 6 methods that were dominant. So let's just take a quick look at how those requests are filled. So very many of them, the purple, are filled within the Rapid ILL and Rapido pods, and that's what we call in-network. So those requests are placed and they're managed and fulfilled within the sort of ex Libris resource sharing network. And then we have LAD with just over 3,000 requests. We have email partners sending emails out to potential lenders, and then we have WorldShare ILL as well over here. So what's interesting, I think, about this is just these numbers around how many requests are being filled within the Rapido pods and from the Rapid ILL community. Of course, this varies depending on the library as well. So, you know, at the moment, when we looked at the data for the last 12 months, it's around 80% of requests in the aggregate across all of those 15 libraries that are using Rapido are achieving this sort of 81% fill rate. And then on the out of network, what we call out of network, that 19% are being filled by LAD or email partners or through OCLC's WorldShare ILL. Now, that WorldShare ILL service is used by 5 institutions and accounts for about 4% of the total. So I think it's really incredible that there's such a strong resource sharing community in Australia and that these fulfillment rates are this high. I also do want to reiterate that this does vary between institutions. We're very much looking at this from across the 15. So, you know, there will be some variation. Some will be lower, some will be higher, but, you know, on average, this is what we are looking like. Okay. So just to summarize that, the Australian Rapido community, we're at 15 institutions in 3 years, which I think is pretty fast pickup as a new product. And we have an 81% in-network fill rate. And we also have an average article turnaround time of 12 hours. And that's bringing in those in-network and out of network. So that's looking across the board at all requests and averaging out the article turnaround at 12 hours. So that's the sort of landscape that we're looking at from a resource sharing perspective. This lovely map over here gives you an idea of where all the institutions are, but you saw the slide earlier and they're all named on there as well. So let's talk a little bit about roadmap highlights now, and then I'll hand back to Alan. Okay, so I've got a few things to talk through. One is around net lender workflows, so libraries that borrow a lot, lend a lot, and that lend more than they borrow. The Rapido Analytics dashboard, something called the requested bookmarklet, filling requests with the URL. Oh, we're going to talk about the analytics dashboard twice, apparently, but not really. So one of the things that we looked at last year and launched earlier this year is around net lender workflows. And something that we've introduced is the ability for a library to add a workflow for a library itself to borrow directly from the library, the Rapido library, using Primo, place a request and manage that request. So let's say a scenario where you have a particular small public library, let's say, that you work with down the road, where LAD integration isn't possible, or for whatever reason, and they want access to the lending to your collection, you can set them up, they can set themselves up, self-register, and then they're created as a partner from within the resource sharing, so they're a valid borrowing partner. And they can place requests and manage them. Your staff manage them as lending requests. They pop into Ulmer as a lending request because the system knows that this request has come from another library, but the library is using Primo to find the item and place a request for something. They can only place requests for materials that are held by your institution. So it's not a sort of broad borrowing service. It really is looking at your collection and enabling libraries to borrow from your collection. So what that does is create a lending alert from within the system. So let's say I've self-registered, I'm a library down the road from you, I've self-registered, and that means I've created the request, placed a request, and that pops into my work queue, into Rapido, and I can manage that request and decide whether I want to fulfill it or not. So rather than having a two-step process where the potential borrowing library is filling in a self-registration form and the staff then have to choose whether they are able to borrow or not, and then you have to let them know, we streamline that to make it very smooth so that you're alerted to these requests, and then you can choose whether you want to allow them to borrow from your collection or not. We've also introduced the ability to allow charging as well. So if you want to charge libraries to supply materials using this workflow, then you can charge them. And so we have a maximum request cost option now, and we track those the requests where you want to charge the library, and that enables you to either use APIs to integrate with your finance system to send those requests out to your finance system so you can send an invoice, or manage those requests as a job within Rapido and send invoices out from within Rapido. So lots of functionality developed around net lending workflows. We worked very closely with a library called Linda Hall Library in the United States, who are basically a big research library, and they don't do any borrowing, but they do an awful lot of lending. And so we worked with them to develop these workflows, and hope if you're a Rapido library, you'll take a look at them if you need to think about how you manage lending workflows. We introduced a new feature called Request It, which is for your students and your staff to request materials from outside of Primo. So there is a bookmarklet feature now, which, as you see over on this, if you've enabled it, then the library users will see this Request It feature. And that enables the user to be outside of Primo. At the moment, it works with Amazon. And so you can be in Amazon, and the user, if this is enabled, can click on the bookmark from an Amazon screen, and the Request It will pop up, and the user can place a request. We're looking to add more services to this bookmark feature, so that if your users are using other websites outside of Primo, then they can use this Request It option. It's kind of cool. So that's that. We also have streamlined the workflows so that a lending library can fill requests with a URL. So if let's say it's a DRM-free item that you have access to, you can just send the URL straight to the user, and the user can click on the link and get access to that material. So rather than sending them a PDF, if there are no rights involved, then the user can easily access that request. Now you might be thinking, well, why would I do that? But, requests slip through the net. Maybe you have some access to some open access materials through subscriptions that other libraries don't have, and so on. So there are occasions when this workflow is needed, and it just really makes it really easy for the staff on the lending side to just ship the request. The analytics dashboard is a nice new feature. It enables you to see at a glance where your requests are being filled. This is obviously taken from a California system. You can see at a glance where your requests are being filled, the total number of lending requests that you filled, and this is configurable. And so really, at a glance, see how your Rapido is working for you. So I think that is my last slide. So thank you for listening. I don't know if we have time for questions or if we're taking questions at the end. Alan, do you want to help me out here? Let me know.
I think we can probably take questions just now. There are 4 questions that I can see. So the first one is it possible to hide the Rapido tile for items the library owns or has access to?
Yeah, so that's all configurable. So yes, you wouldn't necessarily see a tile. Some libraries choose that, if an item's on loan, you'll see a tile, but yes, the tiles are very, very configurable. And of course, if you chose Rapido, the implementation team would walk you through all of that configuration and help you along with it.
Great, thanks. Okay, so the second question, is there a balancing system so libraries borrow and lend approximately the same amount regarding reciprocal participation?
Yes, so we have load balancing for returnables and non-returnables from Rapido. We've got some pretty strong algorithms in there to make sure that that balance is right, and we can also tweak that balance as well at any time. So we sometimes hear from Rapido libraries after they've gone live that they're getting too many requests, and that's literally, we can dial that back very quickly. And the same goes for returnable materials as well.
Great, thank you. Next question, what, if any, loan term or delivery time displays in Primo if the item isn't available from a pod?
Yeah, so again, that's configurable, how you want to message that to your users. So rather than seeing the deliver in 5 days, keep for 120 days, we have, those tiles are completely configurable. So you can say, you could hedge and say delivery 20, potentially as long as 20 days, or you could have something more sort of vague in there about what you want. Again, that's completely configurable. But we try and what Rapido does when a user selects, when we display the pods, is we look to see who holds the item in the pod that is first in that's your top choice, and that's what we're pulling from to put in that. But if we can't find it in any of your pods, then the Rapido would display that message that you've configured as to how you want to convey that to the user.
Okay, thanks. 2 more questions, Katie. So can Rapido integrate with Rialto? We currently fulfill some of our IOL requests via purchasing ebooks instead of borrowing.
Great question. It's on our roadmap for the second half of this year to integrate with Rialto. It will probably be likely in Q4. That would allow a member of staff from within Rapido to look on the Rapido market, to search for the item in the Rialto marketplace, and then you'd be able to choose to pass that request through to Rialto. And of course, in your statistics, you'd then see that item had gone for purchase and had been purchased through Rialto from within your Rapido statistics. So that's a great question. Yes, it's on the roadmap. We are on a monthly release cycle for Rapido, but I'm pretty sure we're looking at the sort of the Q4 of this year to deliver that functionality.
Okay, great. And the final question for self-registration, where does the user or organization place the request?
Yeah, so again, great question. That is done through Primo, but it's a different kind of user group. So the user only has access to your titles, your own titles, and then so they self-register, they can place a request, and then the library decides whether they want to actually, your staff decide whether you want to fill that request if it's a new self-registration. So you're sort of approving that at that point. So the request is placed in Primo, same as any other user. It's managed in Rapido, same as any other kind of lending request. And I see that that's from Auckland, and we can follow up on that and let you know more about that functionality as well.
Yeah, and Katie, you probably saw there was one late arrival, so we'll take one final question. How many libraries go into the rota when you place a request? Is it limited?
So no, it's not limited. Well, it's limited in terms of what you've configured. So if you're a member of only one pod and you're not wanting to go any further in terms of who you're requesting from, then you're limiting yourself at that point. So again, it's configuration. You can have as many libraries go into the rota as you like. And the way that we manage the rota is by your priority Rapido pods. If it's a returnable material, and then you can choose to send that request out. For example, if it's not filled in network, and you're a member of LAD, then you can send that request out to a LAD library for fulfillment. But no, it's not limited, and we wouldn't, through implementation, encourage you to limit yourselves either. So, great questions.
Great. Okay, Katie, thank you very much. I guess
Thank you.
You could now go for an early walk. I don't know if it's light in Edinburgh.
It's not light in Edinburgh. It's definitely not light.
Still quite dark in London. So, or maybe
it will be about half an hour. I think we can start to get light.
So maybe just pop back to bed for a little while then. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for the great questions and the opportunity to present.
Great. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
And I'm very happy now to hand over to our second presenter. This was actually one of the Illuna presentations that you asked to see. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague from Israel this time, Eyal Kirshner. So Eyal, I'll pass to you.
Thank you, Ellen. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon for you. Just let me know if, Ellen, can you see the slides?
We can, yes.
In full screen, right?
No.
You're not stuck in presenter mode? You can see the whole thing?
We can see it, but it's not full screen.
I saw you clicked the button, but it didn't seem to do anything.
Let me just switch slide. What do you see now?
The same.
No, still just your PowerPoint window.
Okay. New share. Let me do the entire screen and let me. No, this is not good. How about now?
Yes, there we go.
And you see the whole thing, right?
Yeah, full screen.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, so again, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eyal Kirshner. I'm leading the newly formed line of business at Libris, which is focusing on student engagement. As you can imagine by the title, this session will be focusing on your students, their engagement, their success, and how we can help. Okay, so it's switched now. You see from content platform to user journey. This is what you see?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so since many of you have been with us for many years, you'll probably notice that historically we've been focusing on really providing content platform to your users. So from selection and acquisition, using Alma and Rapido, and all of these solutions through discovery and access done by Primo and Salmon and Leganto, we did everything possible to put content at the hands of your users, your students. But once we did that, we really stepped away. We were no longer really there. And this is really an issue because this is the moment that teaching and learning actually happens, where young students learn, develop their analytical skills, their research skills. So this is an issue. To add to that, we all know that the transition from high school to university could be very, very challenging, not only on the academic level, but also on a personal level. Many students are leaving home. In the case of Australia, where you get a lot of international students, some of them are actually leaving their country, and they can definitely use all the support we can bring them. And actually, we started running a few surveys directly with students, and we try to understand, how can we help? And there was one common theme of them asking, please consolidate everything in one place. Usually this place will be their mobile phone, but this is where they would like to see everything, whether it's support for their life on campus or any kind of academic support, content access, etc. And we also got this very nice quote actually from one of you. I can't see you all, but I was visiting Australia a couple of months back, and this is one of the quotes that I took to heart. Again, from one of you, the challenge is getting the right content in front of the right students at the right time, and then providing that we did that. So this is indeed a challenge. So we've made a strategic decision at the company in 2024, actually the end of 2023, and we started implementing it already to try and close this loop. So not only deliver the content, but actually try to understand how your students are engaging with content. Do they understand the complexity? Are they having issue? And to complement the academic side, also try to help them around their life on campus, events, finding places, etc. We believe that by closing this loop and taking this approach, we can help drive engagement, which ideally should lead to success, and really provide guidance throughout their academic journey. We can also believe that it can help you, as you are a big part of this, to make a bigger impact on teaching and learning and students as a whole. Now, I guess the good news is that we're not completely starting from scratch. So we have two veteran products, Leganto and campusM, that's been with us for almost a decade, campusM actually a little more. And these are two products that are touching students directly on a day-to-day. Between these two products, we are serving over 5 million students across over 650 institutions globally. So we do have some experience and some understanding when it comes to your students. And with the acquisition of Alethea, which I will share a little bit later on in case you haven't heard, now for the first time we can actually see how your students are engaging with content and providing a more personalized approach to help them. So our vision is really to put all of this together. So take all of our solutions that are student facing and to pair each and every student from day one, from the day they start at school, with a personalized digital companion, as we call it, ideally on the phone. Again, this is where they are all the time, that will provide resources, support, and guidance throughout their academic journey. And again, focusing both on the academic side as well as life on campus. So this is our vision at the high level. We already started working on this, and I will share a little bit about our plans today, but stay tuned, there's a lot of more to come. So going back a little bit, we mentioned how overwhelming the jump from high school to university can be. So let's try to put ourselves in, the eye of the students. I guess, all of us were there. Some many years ago, like me, some less. But let's try to understand what the experience is like for somebody who's just starting school. So meet Olivia. She will be my experimental student. So at the beginning of the term, usually one of the first things that students will get is a syllabus for each and every course. This could be a 2 to 20-page document that holds all the possible information around the course. And Olivia is trying to understand, what she needs to do here, what are her tasks, should she get anything to get her rolling. So as she goes through the syllabus on page 2, she looks around and she sees that there are 2 books, reading tests for a course. So the first thing she needs to understand is how does she get access? Does she have to buy them? Is it provided by the library? How does she get them, etc. As she keeps on rolling or scrolling down the syllabus file, she will see there's an actually week-by-week test with some additional reading task or assignment. So what does she need to do at this point? It really depends on, the professor, on the class, on the way the course and the syllabus is structured. Maybe some of the files have been uploaded. Again, maybe they are accessible by you at the library. Maybe she has nothing and she doesn't really know how to start. Now we multiply this by, let's say, 5-6 courses as your students begin, and again, you can already understand the challenge. And we know that syllabus are not all the same, so the structure might be different and more challenges. So before Olivia even starts, it feels like she's already behind. She not necessarily can find the resources that she needs to buy and that which she get access, etc. And this is where really Leganto comes into play, and as we'll see later on, how Alethea will complement this. But first of all, for those of you who are not familiar with Leganto, although I believe roughly half of you are using Leganto. Leganto is really a course material solution that automatically links course materials with library collection. This is the heart of what we do. We're creating really a bridge between the library and teaching and learning, between your ILS or your ALMAs and the LMS, whatever it may be, Canvas, Moodle, etc. But we are really, what we're really doing is creating this link. And we specifically put it within the LMS. Many of your students are not even aware they're using Leganto. It is embedded into the LMS, but we strongly believe that you need to meet your students where they are. And they spend a lot of the time within the LMS, because this is their academic platform, if you want to call it like this, as well as on their mobile phone. These are really the 2 places you will find each and every student, and you can reach out to them proactively. So if we're going back to Olivia, this is what her experience would look like if she's lucky enough and her school is using Leganto. She's really getting an interactive list of reading and all the needed materials. And these items have direct link to the actual full text, to the actual resources. So the first barrier or the first challenge that Olivia faces is already removed. She can see exactly what she needs to do, and she knows exactly where to find it. And if we, dive in, she can actually do much more as filter, view week by week terms, and really a lot that she can already do really out of the box. From a student perspective, from Olivia's perspective, this is really encapsulate the idea of Leganto. From a static list, a piece of paper or PDF, to a very interactive list that can really support her throughout the course. So again, for those of you who are not familiar with Leganto, this was Leganto in a nutshell. What we're trying to do next when it comes to supporting the creation of those lists, and I still haven't mentioned artificial intelligence 10 minutes into this presentation, so now is the time. What we're trying to do is really completely automate the creation of the reading list. So for that, we try to think what every course has, what kind of asset do you already have that we can use? And obviously, syllabus is the one that comes to mind. So what we're doing basically is using artificial intelligence to take a syllabus file, extract the citations, which is not an easy task. If you know there is no template, there is no standard or format to a syllabus. It can be a short or very long document, and the citations themselves also are coming in hundreds of different styles. So we're using AI to first extract those citations for the PDF, then another AI model to break them down to author, year, publisher, edition, etc., and then automatically run some sort of allocate and creation of a complete Leganto list. So this is actually in advanced stages. We have a working prototype within Leganto that knows how to extract, how to break it down, and how to create a list. And hopefully, soon enough, we'll be able to share initial results with you. But so far, it's looking pretty good. So if we visualize the entire process, and again, I'm now thinking of the library, you're really providing this critical link to make this all happen. So if faculty are the one that's starting this process with, selecting the materials that they need, then, the library coming next with making sure that the students have access to whatever they need. And like we said, this is a big barrier early on, especially if you're a freshman. So believe, this is crucial. And after the library, again, using Leganto, the students have complete access to all their assignments and obviously to the full text, to the resources they need. Again, if we look at Leganto, this is really what it does. It embeds the library into the data journey and the student journey. But like I mentioned, we don't want to stop there. We really want to take a look at how the students are engaging with the content. And for that reason, last year, we acquired a small startup named Alethea, which at the heart of it is it's sitting on the content, and it's providing a set of capabilities to help students in a very personalized way to deal with content. And again, we need to remember it, again, at least the freshmen, they are coming from a different level of expectation, a different level of complexity when it comes to content they need to deal with. And what this does is really providing them a personalized support. So you have this chat-based interaction. Again, this is driven or using AI. So as you go and answer your questions that the instructor assigned to you, you have this little, we call it an academic coach that monitor what you're doing and guide you as you go through it. And what we did here is really flipping the script. If you think of AI or the way you interact with ChatGPT today or the way students are, usually they are asking ChatGPT questions and getting answers. Here we actually are doing the reverse. So based on what the selection the student made as part of the content they're working with, the AI will challenge him. Why did you pick this specific section? What did you learn from it? So it's not providing the student with an answer, but actually some sort of a personalized tutor, so to speak. So again, this is something that is relatively new to the company. We started experimenting with it in North America, but the last couple of months, our incubation team, this is the team that right now handles Alethea, has actually reached out to Australia and looking for some partners to take a look and to test this. So again, we'll keep you updated as we progress with this. Now, the future of Leganto and Alethea is really, it really makes sense. And this is, how we envision them coming together, and they really complement one another if you think about it. So within Leganto, we define what are the resources, and then directly from there, we can take you to, or your students, from the resource to the actual task, to the actual content, when they can start answering the questions assigned by the instructors and interact with our AI academic coach. So the connection here is really, it makes sense. And again, this is something we started working on, understanding how these two will come together and how to create a really seamless experience when going from one to another. But eventually, there will be one. It just makes sense. So, Ellen, are we taking questions at the end?
We can do, Eyal. There are no questions so far, but they might change.
Okay, it's good. Okay. So we talked about at the beginning the challenge of engaging students not only on the academic side or inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom. Again, the transition can be overwhelming. Life on campus, fighting staff, making it work on a social level, attending events, meeting people. There are a lot of challenges. So the question is, how do we engage with students outside the classroom? And this is really where our mobile solution comes into place. But before we go into the specifics, the library role, or even the way the library looks and function, is really changing throughout the years. And as I'm sure all of you know it, as part of my role and my team's role, we are traveling a lot to meet you across the world. And it's really always amazing to see how the library have changed, throughout the years. So what used to be really a home for books, right? A lot of shelves, a lot of books, is transforming to be a home for students. So in many cases, those books, those shelves are gone. Instead, you will find tables or sitting areas. We saw one place where they have sleeping pods, but it really becomes a place that students are coming together to learn together, to meet one another, to build communities, to do some actually learning. This is fine. But it really is shifting, and I have to say it's amazing to see the different libraries and how they look today. Again, we're bringing them there, or they're coming in there. We're trying to create some kind of a community. We still want to support, their needs. So they still need, access to resources. They still need some support. And this is, this is what we see happening more and more. And if you really think about it, if we think about the higher level and the institution level, KPIs like student success, student retention, student outcomes are really being impacted by all of us, and the library is being tasked with, to help provide driving those KPIs and those metrics. But again, we're still waiting for them to come to us, right? You're waiting for them to come into the library in order to provide support. But we know where they are, right? They are on their mobile phone 24/7. So if we want to really meet them where they are, we need to become proactive. And this is where, you know, the phone come into play. This is something we usually ask it, you know, at face-to-face conference by a show of hands. But try to think of, you know, since the beginning of this conference, which been going on for a few hours started, or may I dare ask, since my session started, how many of you are, you know, glanced at your phone? Just think about that. We all know that phones are essential part of our lives. Many will say it's an addiction. It's beyond something essential. You can see some of these staggering numbers from, you know, being addicted. Think of yourself if you're leaving home without your phone, what kind of an uneasiness you may feel. But it really is with us every second of the day. And I do believe those 36% that did not admit that their phones are with them in the toilet are lying. But it really is become part of our life, an extension of our hands, something we absolutely cannot live without. And this was the reason that we came up, you know, with campusM, and our focus from day one with campusM was around student engagement. How are we meeting them where they are and proactively providing support? Focus had been mainly on life on campus, but now with this new initiative, we want to bring the academic support into the mobile and put everything together. Again, this is our vision. This is where we're heading. So those of you who never met campusM, never heard about it, again, there are quite a few of you that do have it. It's really an integrated student engagement platform that helps you deliver an exceptional or extraordinary student experience. It's really a one-stop shop for your students. So they can find here everything from maps to timetable to where to find support, order a laundry machine, book a room or book a laptop, assign or sign into classes. Everything is consolidated in one place. This is the first and foremost important thing. And we know that students want, you know, they want life to be easier. And again, it's overwhelming as is this transition for them. So we can put everything in one place. We believe this is a great start. Like many mobile apps, it's very configurable, very personalized. And like I said, it brings everything into one place. This is our community. We have over 200 institutions globally, and we are growing. We're experiencing good growth with more and more institution joining, student joining, and for us, really what we're trying to constantly measure is how engaged are those students. So how many pages, for example, we're getting, and you know, any kind of usage metric to support it. But this is the key for us, and we do see that once users or students are starting to you know, use campusM, they remain active because they do understand everything they need can be found in one place. And again, this place is on their device of choice, the one thing that they're in their hands 24/7. But we have heard from you know, from you that there are some cases where such kind of a mobile app is provided on an institutional level, and you don't necessarily get your, you know, your rightful footprint with it, or you're not that involved. So again, this is really came as a request from many of our customers in the library. to create something, more focused on the library, that can focus on driving specifically student engagement when it comes to more to the academic side, provide access to resources and such. So again, this is why we came up with this. And I think since campusM has been, again, for I think close to 15 years now, we believe we have a good understanding of, what are the students' needs, what are their behavior. I think we have a proven track record understanding library workflows, academic workflows, and this is why we tried, putting everything together in order to help you drive this engagement, which again, hopefully will lead to success. And this is what campusM Library is really all about. So again, the key here is to really put the library in the palm of your students' help. So again, everything they need or everything you have to offer for them in a single place, and bringing yourself proactively to them instead of waiting them to come from you. And again, like campusM, it's a great place for you to promote services, new resources, maybe events you're holding at the library, but any kind of service that you put out there for students, campusM Library is really a great way to promote it. Again, for those of you who haven't seen it, this is what it looks like. So this is the typical, campusM Library. Oh, obviously, it's always branded with your, with your institution brand. But then what we want to highlight in this specific case, again, is access to any kind of service or resources you provide, push notifications that might be relevant. You can see here off the bat, Primo, so for example, your discovery solution to the resources that you acquired are visible. Leganto has a dedicated tile. All this is part of the campusM Library. And again, the end goal is really to meet them where they are. Okay, so I want to wrap up this session by trying to give you a sneak peek of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to put it all, put everything together. What we're really trying to do, like I mentioned at the beginning, is put all of our student-facing solutions together, but we're trying to do it from the eyes of the students, meaning I'm trying to identify what specific use cases students are dealing with on a day-to-day, and how we can deliver, answer to those specific needs or use cases on the device of choice. So if they're on the mobile, we want to take advantage of specific, mobile capabilities. If they're on the laptop, others. But we want to see or try to imagine how can we help them on their day-to-day. So the first idea that we're toying with is creating or taking specific resources that they need to learn towards a class, and giving it and converting it, or summarizing or complete text, but converting it to audio. We know that many students today prefer listening to reading. Even when they listen, they usually don't do it at the normal speed, but I know for my daughters that do it at like 1.5 times the speed. They have a very short span of attention. So we need to make sure that we deliver the content, not only in different medias, but giving them the option to select the media they want, And again, if we're thinking about the mobile phone, think of the student on his way to class, he's on a bus, he wants to do a quick refresh of the reading or the discussion that about to take place in class. So on his mobile phone, he's going into Leganto, look at the resources, pick one, and then using AI, we can summarize the specific article and play it, and convert it to audio and play it. And we know this is something that many students today are doing, again, talking from personal experience here, but in many cases, they prefer listening to reading. And again, we do not believe this can replace completely reading, but this is some sort of a refresher or a prep towards a class or towards an exam. Another idea that we're dealing with is around exam preparation. So again, imagine you're a student, you have an exam or a quiz coming up on your mobile phone. Again, you can access the relevant resources for that specific exam or a quiz using Leganto. And then with a single click, and once again, using generative AI, we can generate a series of it's called flashcards on the mobile, but a series of questions and answers to help you prep for the exam. So this is, again, something that is very common. And again, talking from personal experience, I know that my kids, this is how they learn the English vocabulary. So I used to make physical cardboard cards. They're actually doing like this all day, and the word and the meaning rotate. And this is how they learn today. This is just the reality. So we need to align. We actually have a prototype for this. Again, if we think back of what we spoke about Alethea, about flipping the script using Gen AI, so not necessarily asking the bot questions, but actually making him create the question. So this is exactly what we did here. So using Gen AI, giving the ChatGPT in this case a text and ask him, please provide questions and answers. It's that easy. Once you fine-tune your prompt, it's not complex with the magic of Gen AI today. So again, this is another example where we believe the value of mobile or the characteristic of a mobile phone on the go, in their hand, whether it's audio, whether it's something like this is where we really can take advantage of this media or the device they are connected to so much. So these are a couple of examples, and again, we're constantly trying to think of more. For example, notifications. Again, if you think about Leganto and Alethea and campusM, so notification about the due date, for example, of a reading task that pops up on their mobile. Again, we try to constantly think where they are and how we can proactively meet them, because we really believe that if they are engaged, they will be successful. And this is what I hope we're all trying to achieve. So again, to wrap up, as always, we want to partner with you to make sure we are meeting your students where they are and providing support throughout their academic journey. Again, both on their academic life as well as life on campus, and doing it anytime and everywhere.
Great, Eyal, thank you very much for the presentation. We are at the end of time. I want to ask the committee for some advice about whether we should take the questions. Many questions have come in. I was looking at my phone when they came in, so I didn't see them, but no, that was a joke. So Ella, what would you like us to do?
Yeah, we've written them all down, so we can send them through to you if you want to formulate some better responses, and we can circulate them through to the mailing list. That's probably the easiest option.
Okay, we'll do that then. Yeah. Okay, so Eyal, thank you very much for the presentation.
Pleasure.
We'll get back to you, and Ella, thank you again for the invitation, and I hope everybody has a great remainder of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you very
everybody
much.
for getting up so early. We do really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.